Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of How To Tuesdays. Today I'm going to be telling you how to remember more of what you learned. My first tip is you need to break apart into small chunks what you are learning. So don't try and learn too much at one time. Just break it all up, like learn an intro on its own, learn the verse on its own, or even smaller than that, you can learn half a verse or even a couple of bars at a time, depending on how complex the piece is. If it's really difficult, you might find that learning 2 bars at a time is the best way to do it. So tip number 2 is you need to give it a rest. So if you've got an hour to learn or an hour to practice, then my best way of doing it is you learn for 20 minutes, you give it a rest for 20 minutes, and then you practice for 20 minutes. If you spend that whole hour just learning stuff, you will remember far less than if you learn for 20 minutes, give it a rest, and then practice for 20 minutes. That also works if you've got 3 or 4 hours to practice. It's the same principle. Practice for a little bit, have a rest, and then try and recall it. The idea is that you're trying to engage your mid to long-term memory and not just using your short-term quick memory all the time. So my third top tip is you need to come back later. Do not leave it overnight before you practice what you've learned. You definitely have to practice before you go to sleep or before the end of the day. So if you practice for an hour in the morning, on the afternoon, you definitely have to practice before you go to sleep. Otherwise, you won't remember hardly any of what you learned. So if we're applying all of the tips that I've suggested, the practice routine or the learning routine would be you learn for a short while, you give it a rest, and then you practice for a short while. And then you move on to another part of the song, like the verse or the chorus or whatever. So you learn a little bit of that, you give it a rest, and then you practice. And you continue like that. And then you stop and you must practice before the end of the day. And then when you come back tomorrow, you'll retain far more than just cramming it all into one practice, just learning, and then just leaving it for a day or something, because that is the worst way to practice. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and suggest any other things that you want to learn down in the comments. I will see you again next week. Until then, bye for now.